These are our blueberry bushes that we pick from. They are probably 9 to 10 feet tall, and they've been in our yard for a while. Beautiful, thick blueberry bushes that thankfully we are now getting a harvest again. And we're going to do a little bit of a follow-up on a lesson that was 3 years ago. I'm sorry, 4 years ago. I am Catrice Howard. This is a ladies' Bible class for the New Hope Road Church of Christ. Back in 2021, I did a ladies' Bible class and we titled it Blueberry Wisdom. It was picking blueberries in our yard. You've got a lot of time because it takes a while. It can be up to an hour or more picking blueberries when you have a good harvest. And so you're out there and you're thinking, and I came up with a lesson that I called Blueberry Wisdom. And so I did this lesson in a ladies' Bible class back in July of 2021. We had had a very good crop that year. And I was going to first say, go back, it's on the website, go back and watch it. But when I went to make sure it was on the website, I don't want you to go back and watch it because something's wrong with the microphone and it has a really irritating sound to it, which I thought nobody's going to want to sit through that. I didn't. So I thought, well, let me just find my notes and we'll go over the initial class quickly. And then this year I came up with some more points to bring out about picking blueberries. And of course, the Bible has parables which are earthly things to teach something heavenly. So it's not completely out of the realm of possibility to make the illustration of picking blueberries is like our Christian walk, which is what I initially, the first lesson initially was. The similarities between the Christian life and picking blueberries during the summer. So number one was get up early while it's cool and it's quiet in the day, and picking early is best. And I made the correlation that most Christians early in the morning is when they want to pray, when they want to do their Bible study, and that's a helpful time for them. So picking blueberries early in the morning is a better time to do it for me personally. Number two, have the right equipment for the job. You need a big bowl, not this bowl. And I brought out some of the berries that we had picked recently this week. But you get a very large bowl, you put some citronella or insect repellent on, and you have comfortable shoes to make sure that you can have a good time out there picking the blueberries. And I made the correlation that a Christian has equipment in their everyday walk. They have their Bible, they can have a concordance, they can have a lesson book for their study. So they have equipment too. And of course, we know that very important equipment for us is our gospel armor, the Christian armor. Number three, you have to judge what is good fruit and what needs to wait a little while to ripen a little bit more when you're doing it. A ripe berry has beautiful dark blue color, and then some of the berries are kind of pink or still green, and so you wait on those. You don't want to pick those if they're not ready. And similarly, a Christian looks for opportunities to share the gospel. It may not always be the right time. You have to kind of judge that and see, does it seem like they're receptive now to talk about Bible things? Okay, number four, you ignore distractions around you. Birds that come sweeping down around you, barking dogs. When we would go out years back, the neighbor's dog, no matter how quiet I tried to be, the neighbor's dog would start barking, and it seemed like it was waking everybody up because we were out there kind of early. I couldn't help that the dog was barking. I was being as absolutely quiet as I can. I don't even know how he knew I was out there. It's just an animal thing. But you have to ignore all of those distractions and focus on your goal and not let all the other stuff get to you. So in our Christian walk, the world constantly has distractions for us, and we can't let that take away our goal of heaven. Let's read 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 8. 1 Peter 1 verse 8. Whom having not seen you love, though now you do not see him, yet believing you rejoice with joy inexpressible and full of glory, receiving the end of your faith, the salvation of your souls. So we need to have an end goal, and we can't let other things take us off our goal. All right, next point is it takes effort when you're picking blueberries. Everything is not just eye level or right at your hand. Some of the blueberries are way up high at the very top, and you have a hard time trying to get to them, or they are way down underneath the branches, and you have to get down on your hands and knees and crouch and pull those because you don't want those to go to waste either. So it's not just right what's at hand's reach that you can get. And I thought about the life of a Christian is a lifelong endurance, and it takes effort. Let's go to Hebrews. Let's turn to the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 1 and 2. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of God. So our Christian walk is endurance. Difficulties can come along. Not everything is easily done. You have to really put in the effort, and it's worth it because we want a home in heaven. Now, next point. Consider how things have grown. When the bush was first planted, it was small, a small blueberry bush, and now they're almost 10 feet tall and huge branches that intertwine with each other, and making it that effort of trying to get to things because you're having to swoop under some branches and come up on the other side. So things have grown since we first put those blueberries out, and we're getting the benefit of it. So as Christians, we need to be able to see our spiritual growth as we age and we continue to strive. Let's go to 2 Peter. We were in 1 Peter. Let's go to 2 Peter, and we're going to read chapter 1, verses 5 through 8. 2 Peter 1, starting in verse 5. But also for this very reason, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, to virtue knowledge, to knowledge self-control, to self-control perseverance, to perseverance godliness, to godliness brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness love. For if these things are yours and abound, you will neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ. So by adding those Christian virtues to our faith, we will grow. And it takes effort to do that, but you reach your goal in the end. Next point. Be thankful for the crop you planted and watered, that God gives the increase. The blueberries are a blessing, a gift from God. We did a little bit, but it is from God. Let's go to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians and chapter 3. And let's read 6 through 8. And this is Paul speaking to the church in Corinth. starting in verse 6. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. So then neither he who plants is anything, nor he who waters, but God who gives the increase. Now he who plants and he who waters are one, and each one will receive his own reward according to his own labor. So let's always keep that in mind, that we do have effort. We do part of the work in the work of the church, just like these blueberries. We did some of the effort, but it is God who gives the increase. And last in this first lesson was share your blessings. Once all the work is done and you see the abundance of blueberries harvested, share with others, because it is such a blessing. And we did in the year 2020 and 2021, we were sharing blueberries with everybody because we had more than we could ever use. Our freezers were full of quart bags, and we were sharing with others. And let's go to Luke chapter 12. Let's remember the lesson of the rich fool. Luke chapter 12, and we're going to read verses 16 to 21. 16, verse 16. Then he spoke a parable to them, saying, the ground of a certain rich man yielded plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, what shall I do, since I have no room to store my crops? So he said, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build greater, and there I will store all my crops and all my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, fool, this night your soul will be required of you. Then who will those things be which you have provided? So is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. So when we have blessings, it is a commandment. It is a principle that we are to share with others. So that was my first lesson back in 2021 about what I learned picking blueberries and what happened in the coming years after that. In 22, 23, and 24, we had no blueberries. And we would have friends and family, don't you have blueberries to share this year? And we'd say, nope, we're not getting blueberries. The bushes are still out there, but we're not getting any blueberries. We got maybe a handful one year. But this year, they have started coming back again, and we have blueberries. Maybe not as good as 20 and 21, but we do have some blueberries again. So I was thinking while we were out there picking, there's some more things I can add to the lesson on blueberry wisdom. First is patience brought a good year finally. Let's turn to Luke 13. We were in the book of Luke. Let's turn to Luke 13, and we're going to read verses 6 through 9. Jesus giving a parable, verse 6. He also spoke this parable. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came seeking fruit on it and found none. Then he said to the keeper of his vineyard, look, for 3 years I have come seeking fruit on this fig tree and find none. Cut it down. Why does it use up the ground? But he answered and said to him, sir, let it alone this year also until I dig around it and fertilize it. And if it bears fruit, well, but if not, after that you can cut it down. And I thought this was funny that for 3 years, we have had no, just like it says here, 3 years I've come seeking fruit and found none. For 3 years, we had no harvest of these beautiful, wonderful, delicious blueberries. We had no blueberries for 3 years. Now, that's just a coincidence. I am not saying that's anything miraculous or anything like that, that now they're starting to come again. But that was just a funny coincidence. So sometimes when Jesus is in this parable, we can clearly understand if we are not producing fruit, we will be cut down. We will be cast off. And there are other lessons in the New Testament that teach us that. Let's also look at the book of James. We're going to go to James chapter 5. James chapter 5, and we're going to begin in verse 7. Therefore, be patient, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, waiting patiently for it until it receives the early and latter rain. You also be patient. Establish your heart, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. So, a farmer will wait for that fruit to come. And this year, we finally have some fruit again, which we're so very thankful for. So patience, being patient, we got a good crop this year. So thankful for that. Now, what we have been finding, though, that I don't remember before, we had birds after us, and you would see berries that the birds had picked, and they really tore them up on the bush, and you know you can't use those. But this year, some of the berries look good, and you go to grab and pick it, and they're mush. They look beautiful on the bush, but they are mush because they have been pierced. The juice has been taken out of them. They've been pierced by what I now am seeing out there are wasps and certain kind of bees. I don't remember that before, but they're out there this year. And that's something that can't be a distraction either, because I'm thinking, okay, I don't like bees, I don't like wasps, but I'm out here to pick berries. I want to get these berries while we have them. But they are piercing some of the berries. And so what looks good is good for nothing. It looks good. It looks like a beautiful, big, ripe berry, but all of the juice has been taken out of it. So I can't use it. And they end up having to just be thrown on the ground. So let's turn to the book of Colossians. And let's see what we can learn from that. Colossians chapter 2. And we're going to begin in verse 20. Therefore, if you died with Christ from the basic principles of the world, why, as though living in the world, do you subject yourself to regulations? Do not touch, do not taste, do not handle, which all concern things which perish with the using according to the commandments and doctrines of men. These things indeed have an appearance of wisdom in self-imposed religion, false humility, and neglect of the body, that are of no value against the indulgence of the flesh. So, just like those berries, they have an appearance. They have an appearance of, here it says appearance of wisdom. They have an appearance of being a good blueberry, but they're no good. They're no use, because all of the good juice and blueberry pulp and everything inside of that berry has been taken. So, spiritually, some have an appearance of wisdom, but are of no value. Let's not be like that. We don't want to just have an appearance of being a Christian, but inside, we're not following God's word. That's a dangerous place to be in, because that will not make you pleasing with God. Now, when we're out there picking, a lot of the time, you're picking and putting it in the bowl, and you're dropping some of them. You know, you'll get a branch that you pick them one by one, or you'll take your hand and you'll try and pull a lot of them out. Either way, you end up dropping some good berries. And you can try and see, okay, I dropped it right around here. It ought to be right at my feet. And sometimes you can't find them. Now, what I was thinking was, I can't fret about that. I can't get upset that I've dropped some of the good berries. I need to focus on, okay, some are lost. The birds can have them. The insects can have those. I need to just keep going. I can't get everything. I'm not going to be able to pick every berry out there on those bushes. I can't fret about that. So we need to think about that in a spiritual sense. We can't fret and be upset about things that we weren't able to do. We need to work and we need to do our best and know that God will be happy with that. Let's turn to the book of Matthew, chapter 9. Matthew chapter 9, and we are going to begin in verse 37. Chapter 9, 37. Then he said to his disciples, and this is Jesus, then he said to his disciples, the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest. So, physically, we have a harvest of blueberries that William and I are doing our best to pick what we can and save what we can and share with others what we can. But I know we're not going to get all of them. That's almost impossible. You're going to drop some, you're going to miss some, you're not going to be able to reach some, but you do what you can. We're out there, we're working, we do what we can. And in our spiritual life is the same. We need to work and do our best and do what we can and not fret about those things that we can't do everything, we didn't get it done. I believe God will understand. If we are working and doing our best, he will understand. He knows that we have frailties, but if we're working, he will be pleased with us. So there's another point. And then lastly, last point of this lesson, I'll take a big silver bowl to go out there and I'm picking all the berries I can in the time that I have. And I have probably forgotten, but I'm remembering now this year that bowl starts to get very heavy as it gets more and more full. And I'm not done. I still have berries to pick. What I've started doing is putting the bowl down on the grass and then picking what I can and dropping it into the bowl. I have to lay that burden down. The bowl is too heavy. If I keep trying to hold on to it while I'm picking blueberries, I could probably dump the whole thing, which I'm clumsy. I've admitted that lots of times in our lessons. I can end up dumping the whole bowl, or I'm going to spill some of them out. It just gets to be too heavy. So I thought, okay, Catrice, put the bowl down and then keep picking until you can't fit any more berries in that bowl, and then do something about that. So we can think of that spiritually too. We need to lay our burden down at times and not think we can do everything on our own. So let's look at Matthew chapter 11, and we were in Matthew chapter 9 just now. So let's go to Matthew chapter 11, and we're going to read verses 28 to 30. Jesus speaking, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So let's remember that in our Christian walk, Jesus wants us to find rest with him. His yoke is easy, his burden is light. We can do it. We don't need to try and carry everything ourselves, carry emotional problems and things like that. We don't need to carry it ourselves. There are times when we need to put it down. We need to give it to God. We need to pray and not keep carrying all of that extra weight. Let's also end with this verse, First Peter chapter 5, and we're going to read verses 6 and 7. First Peter chapter 5, verse 6. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. Let's remember that. Cast our cares upon him because he loves us. How much does he love us? He gave his only son for us, who died on the cross and was that sacrifice for us. That's how much he loves us. So let's remember that. We can put down a burden, we can put down difficulties and troubles, hand it over to God. Pray about it, work on it as best we can, but eventually sometimes you have to just let it go and put it down. So, all right, ladies, it was a little repeat of a lesson and a couple of more points about picking blueberries. So if you have blueberry bushes, I hope you've had a good year. It was 3 years since we had a better crop of blueberries, and we are so thankful for them. And we'll try and do our best to share with some. So I wish you a wonderful day. It's getting to be a hot summer, and it's good for the blueberries, and thankful for the rain when it comes. And we'll finish and talk again on another lesson.